Hi everyone, and welcome to this next episode of the Self-Leadership Podcast. Today we are joined by Minna Schmidt, a financial advisor and the co-founder of Flourish Financially, a money and wealth academy for women. We will be exploring today how to be as intentional as possible when it comes to money and view finances as an act of self-care, and how at the same time really go towards our emotions and validate them and see them for what they are, coupled with some really fun practices such as the sauna. So stay tuned for some brilliant self-leadership practices in this episode.
Mina, good morning.
Hi, Josh. Hi, Anna.
Hi, morning.
Thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of the Self-Leadership Podcast. We're so glad that you are here today.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a great honor to be here. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I have a lot to say about this.
As are we. Well, I had the pleasure of being introduced to you a couple of weeks ago. From my side, it felt like we'd known each other for a long time. So I'm sure our listeners will pick up the same vibe from today's conversation. But for those of you who don't yet know who you are, could you do the distinct honor of introducing yourself for us, please?
With great pleasure, of course. So I am a financial well-being coach, and I'm on a mission kind of to help women build more financial freedom and security. So that's my professional mission. But personally, I'm also a mom of two lovely kids. I'm based in Switzerland and originally from Finland. I really love finances. That's maybe something a bit strange. And I love to inspire people to build more confidence, to manage their finances better, so that they can live their lives on their own terms. And how I do this, I am a co-founder of Flourish Financially, which is an initiative I founded together with Dr. Sophie Jablonski. And we do basically financial education, especially for women, also sometimes organizations. And why is this so important for me is because there's a lot of women who are still not feeling very confident or good about their finances. And there is really space for them to build more financial security for themselves, more freedom, more options, more choice. I'm a big lover of sauna because I come from Finland, so I'm going to talk a bit about that as well. And love the outdoors and hiking here in Switzerland in the mountains. It's something that I really love.
Love it. You're speaking my language, Mina. You're speaking my language. I love everything in that list already. Do you mind sharing with us where did your love for finance come from? Do you remember the kind of point in your life where it became such a prominent topic for you?
Yeah, so that's a good question because I joined the business school in Finland, right? So I studied economics and finance. It just attracted me. I don't know even why exactly. I think I was kind of following in the footsteps of my father and my boyfriend at the time, who have both been like studying in the school. And when I was there studying these topics, like it really wasn't something that I embraced very much. Mm-hmm. It was kind of a path that someone else had been taking before me, and I was then like following it more or less. So while I always enjoyed, let's say, spreadsheets and numbers, I was good in maths in school, things like that, but I didn't feel very called into it. And at least in the university where I was studying, finance was definitely a quite macho topic. Talked about kind of finance bulls, a very like guys topic, trading, investment bankers, things like that. And that world really didn't call me at all. And then my boyfriend at the time, he was investing in stocks. He was talking about that all the time. Whereas myself, I was like, no, this is definitely not for me. Like, it's just nothing in my thinking universe even. And now I'm teaching women how to invest in stocks. So it's a full circle. But probably the real wake-up call for me to be working on this happened much later in life. So for a long, long time, I wasn't very aware of my own finances. I was avoiding the topic. So it took a long time to actually really get my wake-up call. It was probably around the time of when we had our kids, because then you kind of realize as a woman that there are many trade-offs in terms of fitting that all in your life. Parenthood, career, and often your earning power at that point kind of goes to a different path than what it has been on.
And then from that personal interest in personal finance, later came the inspiration to share that with other women, didn't it? And I've had the privilege to actually participate in Minna's program last year, in the Flourish Financially program, and it was something else. Honestly, it completely changed the way that I look at finances, the way that I manage my money. But most importantly, I feel a much stronger kind of baseline security, which has been an incredible addition to my life. So yeah, I couldn't be more grateful and couldn't be more a fan of the work that you're doing, Minna, honestly.
Thank you, Anna. It's really lovely to hear this, because this is what we are there to do, to change almost like the emotions, the outlook. It's a lot of the work is about psychology, right? We do work with the numbers and financial planning techniques, Excel sheets, things like that. But just as important part, if not even more important, is how you actually think and feel about money and your own relationship to it. And that's something that really has kind of came to my purpose in a way, is to help people who feel quite hopeless or who feel that they can't change things, to give them the hope and the power that they can change this thing and to see what's possible for them. And then to also, of course, have the tools kind of to do that. But that switch, when that happens for a person, and I think, Anna, I've witnessed that for you, like I love that. That's like the reason why I'm doing this, is when that switch happens and it just broadens like what's possible for me, what can I do. It's like about growth, and kind of like the topic of the podcast, self-leadership, right?
Absolutely.
100%. Well, my relationship with money is one of abandonment, because it keeps leaving me. So that's the relationship that I have with money. And hopefully from this conversation, we can try to repair that. But let's see how it goes. Let's move on to a really important question for this conversation today. Is we would love to know a little bit more about how you try to live intentionally. What does the idea of living intentionally mean to you?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? It's something that for me is kind of in a way about taking myself seriously and really leading your own life. Of course, my work, it can be financially, but also emotionally, about professionally setting the boundaries. I think if I look at my life, right, there was the part where I was more in this corporate career world. And I wasn't really putting any boundaries, right? I was following a path that I thought is the one that I should be doing. I was being reactive. I was also, in the end, kind of compromising my health and my well-being, just following some kind of pattern, what I thought that I should be doing. And finally, I decided kind of to take that big step and move into entrepreneurship, to be doing something which is more purpose and mission driven. Also to have more freedom. Like freedom is such an important value for myself. So I gave myself permission to take that big step, to leave what wasn't working. I moved into entrepreneurship, but what happened, of course, is that the same pattern continued. I was still being very harsh on myself. I still wasn't putting the boundaries. I was still actually not getting healthy. So I kind of had some chronic health issues even for quite a while because of that. And I think my body was just alerting me kind of like, hey, you really need to change. This is the only way we can like make you wake up, like is that you're getting sick. So okay, I really realized that and started to work on myself because I hadn't changed. And that's why even if I was an entrepreneur, I was more free, but I wasn't like actually doing the work on growing as a person. So this is kind of now the journey I'm still on. I'm by no means like over that whole thing. I think we never become ready in a way, right? But that work has been quite fundamental on working on those fears and insecurities which are behind that you're trying to fit into some mold, that you're not putting the boundaries, noticing kind of where you can grow as a person, where things are uncomfortable, and then kind of choosing to act on it and work on it.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, Minna. And to me, it sounded very clear. It sounded like bringing enough self-respect for oneself to the table to truly listen. Hey, is this working or not for my body, mind, and soul? And then having the courage to do things differently if it's not working, and to accompany that courageous process of doing things differently with the inner work to be able to get there, which sounds so powerful. And what I'd love to hear, Minna, is two things. One is, do you remember the exact moment when you realized, hey, my body is really trying to tell me something and I'm going to do things differently? And the second part is, if you feel comfortable sharing some of them, and maybe we'll get there later in the podcast, but some of the things that have helped you with the personal work, that would be amazing.
Yeah, with pleasure. So one moment that comes kind of to my mind was about this thing with the body telling, right, that it's time to change. So I was in my first year of being a financial coach, and I had, as always, like a very busy life. I had agreed a lot of different things, presentations, coaching programs. You know, when you've promised that you will be somewhere, then you kind of do it, even if you're sick. So I had kind of these, I would basically never get healthy. I had a flu or some kind of infection, and it just wouldn't get better. Like, I was a frequent visitor at the kind of weekend clinic near to where I live, where you can kind of get antibiotics, if you need them, like on short notice. And I would have these workshops. I would go there, ibuprofen and whatever, even with mild fever or something. You go there, you present, because this is it. You need to be there, you've promised. And it was really hard for me to set those boundaries. Like, look, no, you just cannot. And it was around Christmas, New Year's of that year when I finally actually got at the same time the influenza virus and COVID. So it was really knocking me out. And I realized, like, I have like my Build Your Financial Wellbeing coaching program starting. I have to cancel it. It was something that I would have never done before, but I had to call each client, look, I'm too sick. Like, I need to now take time off for healing first. It was very tough to do that because you're an entrepreneur. You're like really trying to make this work. I mean, every single client stayed with me. They all were like, of course, yeah, we're going to postpone it. We just started the course, I think, 1 month later or something like that. And that's where it started. But what helped me with that, actually, I mean, it was really work that I did actually with kind of hypnotherapy as well. I think, Anna, we talked about it at some point, right? It's interesting because I've usually not been into anything like, hypnosis or anything like that. But I have a very good friend of mine who is doing it, and she's really good at it. And with her, I started working on that. So actually healing myself from the thoughts in a way, right? And it was a big thing, really, to kind of tell to myself internally, like, now you stop kind of doing this. You use kind of visualization techniques as well. There was kind of like a vivid example, like a button where I was like, stop this. Like, basically just, you have the agency. Like, that's where it comes down to, that you really stop it. You start healing yourself from inside. And that really worked. I went through that process, and after this, I haven't been sick. I mean, maybe like a little flu or something when the kids come, from school with something, but I haven't been to the doctor since, what is it now, 2.5 years? No. So it really works on your physical health. That's amazing, right? But I was my health issues were not because I'm not eating healthy or things like that. It was because I was sacrificing my boundaries or not respecting myself. And that's what was keeping me sick.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I was also thinking about how many of these conversations, and we asked this question, how many of these conversations come from a moment such as that? And then things change. It's so often we have these conversations with guests, including my own answer as well. And it always seems to start at this inflection point where the body alerts you and then things start to change. It's interesting that seems to be the theme. The question I wanted to ask, Mina, was, to me, it sounds like what's happened is you're kind of altering what you're optimizing for for lack of a better term. It sounds like what's happened is a shift in priorities for you. To me, it sounds like it's an optimization for health and balance. But I want to ask you the question, like, what do you feel like you're trying to optimize for? What is it that you're trying to be intentional about nowadays?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yes, the health and balance was where it started from, but it has moved to, from my perspective, to something which is much deeper than that. It's this having a very clear, in a way, like having a purpose for your life, because somehow before I was drifting, I was reactive, I was trying to meet some pattern that was prescribed from outside, and now I'm being very intentional about what I'm doing, feeling good about it, what I'm doing. And that's kind of what has been, like, in a way, the really, really big, like, internal question to me is like, am I building like someone else's life or my own? And if you're not living along with your purpose, I feel like you have low energy, you may have resentment, you're drifting, it can affect your health, it can affect a lot of things in your life. But if you are aligned with your purpose, it helps, it makes all your decisions in life easier, right? You know what you're doing. Yes, there still may be like some tough days and things like that, of course, but you're more like living life on your own terms. And that has been the fundamental change. And it's even like on our work in Flourish Financially, we pay a lot of attention to things like that. Like, what's your purpose for financial life as well? Because it's not just about the reaching certain number or maximizing your wealth or something like that. No, it's clearly about what your purpose is. And I redefined my purpose quite recently. And now my purpose is I live life fully on my own terms. And I'm here to help other women do the same. And so I don't know if it's perfect yet, let's say, but it really resonates a lot with me. And then when you have these reactive things, you can always go back, hey, am I just trying to please some other people by doing this? Or am I really doing it with my purpose? So I don't know if that answers your question, Josh, at all, but
It absolutely answers my question. It's an awesome purpose as well. It's super clear, and you could see in your body language like the energy as you were saying it as well, which is super authentic. So I loved it. And personally, you sound like my fairy godmother right now. Like I absolutely needed the last 18 minutes and 42 seconds. So I appreciate that as well.
What came to mind as I was listening to you, Minna, is that this question, am I leading my own life or somebody else's? In a way, that is the question par excellence for self-leadership, right? Ultimately, that is what self-leadership is all about. It's, am I taking the same like care and intentionality and purposefulness when it comes to directing my own life that somebody who's in a leadership role in a company is expected to do for the company, right? And it sounds like you're doing that beautifully.
Thank you, Anna. I mean, everyone has a different purpose, right? It's so unique, but I think it's a great force in a way to have a think about that, right?
For sure. You mentioned that you check back in with it, with the purpose itself, and try to realign with it and make sure that it's still there. I'm curious to understand, like, is that an active purpose? Like, do you schedule time to reground yourself and revisit this, or is it something that you come back to when you feel a little bit off track, for example? Like, how does that work in practice for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think I did my very first kind of purpose like around that time when I stepped into entrepreneurship and took kind of that big decision of leaving corporate career, moving into this mission of supporting women on their finances. And that was then like my compass for quite a while. So I didn't really necessarily so actively check in on it, or that I would have scheduled something. But in the work we do at Flourish Financially, we always, in our courses, in our programs, we talk about this. So then you kind of, when you hear other ladies like saying theirs, like you kind of maybe think a bit about yourself. But now it was actually very recent. I sat down with my own coach. I realized, like, when I was saying that old purpose of 3 years ago, like, that doesn't resonate anymore. I think I need to update that now. And that's where this one that I just said before kind of came. So it wasn't really something scheduled, but then now it feels like it's time to like update that a little bit. It was back then, it was reflecting that transformation which was going on then. And I think it's going to evolve, right? As our life goes on.
Agreed. I have so many questions on this. I know we've got things to move on to, but I have so many questions on this. If I might indulge myself for 1 minute, I have one final question on this before we might move on finally. How did you come to this purpose? Because I feel like I've tried to do the same. I've spoken to friends who have tried to do the same thing, and it can feel like such a difficult task to start, right? Because it's like, where do you even begin with this? So I just wondered, like, could you share how you actually arrived at this as a purpose, so someone might be able to try and replicate it if they can?
Yeah, that's a good one. I wish I would have like a magic formula as well, but like nothing beats like really sitting down with some like pure thinking time, basically. But I think for me, what it started with, at least this time around, was to go back to values. For me, for example, freedom is my kind of highest value, and what that kind of means to me. And then there are other values that come to that. I think, so I had, for example, education and change in society. I was like putting down things like that, which I thought, okay, this is really something that I appreciate, what I value, what I want to come, what I think should come out in my purpose. And if you notice kind of the final sentence that I said, like it doesn't have finances, the word financial or money in it, which you could think like for me, since I do all my work and mission with helping people in finances, there should be that word like financial freedom maybe or something. But no, I realized like, because finances, money is just a tool actually. It's really more about that. I mean, it's a very cliche word, empowerment, but it is about that, right? You know, and therefore I just like, well, actually drop that finances. Like this is really about helping people to live a life on their own terms. And that's what I want for myself. I want to have also like freedom to live my life fully, boldly, expanding kind of who you are, being a bolder, fuller version of yourself. Finances may be just one tool to do that, right? So that doesn't necessarily need to be in the purpose. So I would start with the values and start writing. And sometimes, you know, you can even use AI to help you with like the wording, right? So if you're like struggling to make the English flow in a beautiful sentence, like you can get some ideas there as well.
And one thing, if I may add, in terms of how to get to purpose, one thing that really helped me was to move away for a moment from this big word, because purpose is obviously such a big word with so much gravitas, and to try completing the sentence, I am a woman who. And then it's just a one-liner, I'm a woman who whatever, right? And that has also, that line has changed over the years. And initially was kind of first attempt at trying to grasp something. And then as you iterate, it feels like it's going deeper and deeper, which is also what I heard you say, Minna, that with the next iteration, it kind of got at a layer underneath. And I found that quite a helpful tool, because it takes away the pressure of, I need to define what my one and all purpose is in life. But by virtue of thinking, hey, how do I want to describe myself and my being in one sentence? That helped to uncover a lot of that.
I love that sentence, actually. That's a very good way to think about it. Yeah, when you put it like, oh, it's such a lofty, my purpose, like it has to be something really, it doesn't have to be anything so impressive. Maybe that's what's happening for you, Josh. If you're like thinking that this has to be now something that, you know, really impresses other people, then it's hard to put it. But if it's something that you start writing for yourself, that it clarifies, like it's this like compass in a way. Yeah, who do I want to be? Like Anna was saying, what am I doing in life? Yeah, that's a good starting point.
I like it. That's going to be in the icebreaker in the course now, Mina, isn't it? That's the first 15 minutes. That's the new icebreaker.
Purpose.
I love it. Well, let's move on and find out what this amazing purpose looks like in real life. So we're going to jump into your 5 most impactful self-leadership practices. So let's start at the start, shall we? What's number 1?
So number 1, I had to put this, of course, is financial self-care. This is because so many people are taking care of themselves in other ways. You know, you go to a doctor if you're sick, you're going to gym, you're like taking care of your sleep, nutrition. But many, many people are actually not taking care in the same way of their finances. And for me, I think it's nice to think about managing your finances as an act of self-care. So it's, small rituals you can do, like some money date with yourself every month to check in on your numbers, or you start with automated saving or investing, or you think about, intentionally, where do I actually want to be with my finances in the next 5 or 10 years? That is really important, because still in this world, money plays a pretty big role in having more freedom, more options, more security. Whether we like it or not, it's like that, right? If you don't have it, then it's also restricting your life quite a bit. And if you have this good financial self-care, it means, if you take good care of your money, it will also grow and it will protect you in the future, right? There's this saying, like, if you don't manage your money, it will manage you. So that's one message. I try to live myself by this, but it's a message I'd love to share to maybe others who haven't yet gotten inspired by that it's something you never regret later if you started to kind of be a bit more intentional around your money. If you pay attention to it, then it can really grow and help you later in life.
And so, Minna, say somebody is listening to this podcast and is thinking, hey, this resonates, but I have no idea where to start. What would a good small step be that somebody can take to start a self-care financial routine?
Yeah, that's a good one. So if you are in this situation, then one thing is just start getting your hands a bit dirty with your money in a way, or that's not maybe the right way to say it, getting intimate with your money, let's say. So many people are just simply ignoring, like just looking, how much money they have at the bank account, maybe at some point, if at all. So it means getting more familiar with it, right? How is it moving? Where am I actually putting it? Am I using it all now, or am I putting something to the future? So getting more familiar, intimate, knowing your numbers. You can do this, of course, in like Excel or using some app, but even just, good old-fashioned pen and paper, like, okay, what money came in? Where did it go? What do I want to achieve? And then the second thing I would say is to start thinking about, like, what kind of, let's say, money beliefs or money patterns are you perhaps carrying? Like, I think, Josh, you said in the beginning, like, money is avoiding me. Like, that could be like one money belief, like, I'm not meant to be rich. I will never be. Money is always escaping me. I'm not good at handling money. So if you're saying things like that to yourself, it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Maybe starting to think like, yeah, I'm taking some steps to manage my money better. I respect my money. I take good care of it. I'm learning more about it. Those subtle thoughts actually make a really big difference in how we decide about things.
That's so powerful. Thank you for sharing. And I remember myself going through some of these limiting beliefs in relation to money. It was wild. So many things and beliefs that I had picked up from childhood, from, I don't even know from where, and that were unconsciously ruling a lot of my financial behavior. So when we then in your course, Minna, when we looked at them and when I got to consciously decide what do I want to believe about money, that felt like such an empowering step. So yes, I couldn't agree more. And it's paradoxical, isn't it, that some of the most powerful work in relation to money doesn't even involve numbers.
Absolutely. It's a good reflection for anyone, because we are all from different backgrounds and we all get influenced by the money culture that we were growing up in. We call it financial heritage at Flourish Financially, right? So, and that really, it's a matter of financial inclusion as well. So some of us maybe grew up with, dinner conversations on how you invest money and how you should be doing it. Others grew up where money was a topic of conflict or scarcity, perhaps as a kind of tool of power as well in some ways. And that really, really changes how we then ourselves think about money and manage it.
Big time. And now, Minna, before we move on to the next self-leadership practice, I am curious, would you be open to sharing with us and our guests what your personal favorite financial self-care practice is?
I love that. It's a whole package for me, but I think what I really love is that habit of checking in on your finances. So I am a person who loves spreadsheets. I love to do like different spreadsheet tools, and every month I sit down and I update everything, like where my not just for myself, for our whole household, like how has our money flown kind of this month, where what came in, what went out. And when you do that regularly, you actually start having data, and we all know how powerful data is in today's world, right? You can start analyzing, you can start understanding it, and initially that may feel quite restrictive. I need to sit down every month, but like, it's not actually. When you do it, it becomes empowering, because it's like your mini strategy session on like, okay, so what do I actually want to do? Like, where do I really want to spend money? Because this is what I'm investing in, and I'm doing it intentionally. And then, well, maybe some other thing, I don't care that much about it. So for me, it's like shocking how many people are using money without any intentionality, right? Yeah, maybe for myself, I'm so deep in the topic and so on, but I was like that myself as well before, like money was coming in, it was going out. I didn't really like have any clue like what's happening inside that machine. So I would say that's one that I still stand by as a very powerful habit.
Love it. Love it. And you mentioned apps and you mentioned spreadsheets. Like if someone was to want to start taking a little bit more accountability for their finances and understand it, like is there a particular resource that you would recommend, like a book to start with, or an app, or something like that? Like where can someone go as a starting point to gain more information?
Yeah, with pleasure. So in terms of if you just want to start tracking your money flows, like there is an app, it's called YNAB. You need a budget. That's where the letters come from. So that can be a track. I think there's many other trackers as well. So you can definitely use those. I kind of still like believe in the power of actually doing it yourself, either Excel or pen and paper or whatever works for you. Like there's probably a cool AI widget that you can develop on that as well, because then you get indeed like your hands dirty in the substance, right? So even if many bank accounts have like a kind of automated analysis of where your money goes, and you look at it and you're like, okay, that didn't really like change anything for me. So it's about that, like having that thoughtful moment. So therefore, I kind of recommend doing it yourself in very concrete terms. And something, if I can add a little mention here, like at Flourish Financially, we actually have a course called Women's Financial Health Check. And that's like a short 4-week course where you actually really do this work with spreadsheets. So we have their tools, like you build your balance sheet. So that's your net worth. That's another tool, not just the budget side, but like actually how your assets are structured. And we go through it really step by step. This is what you put in. This is how you look at it. This is how you understand it. This is what's maybe missing or what you want to change. And we go through like these key financial numbers of your life, which is, I think, something that everyone should have like at their fingertips. So that's a great place to start as well.
Can I recommend a book? Morgan Housel's book on money.
Yes.
I forget the exact title.
The Psychology of Money.
That's it. Thank you. Yes.
We're both
one
there.
of my favorites as well.
Yeah. Made a big difference for me.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. That's a really good one. It also takes more the societal context into account, which is, I think, really nice.
Yeah, I liked it. Okay, let's move on, shall we? So practice number 2, Mina, if you'd be so kind.
Yeah, actually, we kind of like discussed about it already, because it was about this, it's about this purpose-driven approach. Like that's actually something that I would say to anyone. I love this quote, which is something like, financial success is a byproduct of doing what you love. And I want to leave you with that, because I think in anything you do, right, if you do have kind of that, well, whether you call it the purpose or your mission or your vision, or there's many these different tools, but I think that is like so foundational, right? Otherwise, you're reactive and you are not guided kind of by your internal compass, right? So for me, that's the practice that has been really key. And I would love to encourage anyone who hasn't yet kind of thought about that, like just start that exploration. It has mattered the world to me.
Yeah. And so, Minna, the way I'm hearing what you said is that you see a strong link, ideally, between purpose and the work that you do. Say for somebody that might not be a possibility, at least in the short term, right? To leave their current job or to turn things around quite radically. That may be something that may take longer time. Do you have any thoughts on how to build more purpose into other areas of life as well?
Yeah, definitely. It can be in other areas than their kind of day job, right? And even the day job itself, you can still, even if it's not something that you're now absolutely like excited about the mission, like, it still has a purpose, providing you with financial security, for instance. Sometimes there's this like purpose has to be something very grand and very like, very, very big and meaningful, but the purpose can be found in so many different small things. And it can be in what you're doing, of course, in your free time with people that you love. Like, I think that's really up to you, right? How does it look like in your life? Where do you want to kind of explore that? But having that and then taking even small steps to that direction, even if it's not a big change, I think is so key. We have like an epidemic of depression, of burnout, which is really, I think, like part of it is this. Like when for example, I wake up in the morning, I love each day what I'm doing. And that really matters a lot, right? It's not maybe easy if you're feeling a bit stuck, but it's about doing that work. And then you kind of start also maybe seeing new doors open up, right? New opportunities.
Makes sense. I wonder if there's a combination between the idea of purpose and your first practice of kind of financial freedom, financial health and stuff like that. And I wonder, do you encourage people to kind of try and attribute a purpose to their finances, i.e. like, I'm looking after my finances because this is what I would like to gain from it? And so like, I don't know how to ask the question.
Yeah.
Have you got some good examples if people were like unsure of like, well, what would I do with my money? Like, have you got some good examples you could share that people have come up with, or perhaps your own if you felt comfortable? Like, what can people do in this world?
Yeah, this is really good to absolutely. This is really like the work that we're doing at Flourish Financially is about this. Like, it's about that deeper purpose around your finances. Like the finances, your numbers, like they're just a tool, right? But what it's more about this, your why. Like, why are you actually doing this? And it's very different to people. Some people, it's about showing their children, for example, how they have, overcome themselves to take steps that they never thought they would be able to do. To some, it's about breaking those patterns in their family and actually like a negative cycle around money, and now becoming more free and more capable. It's often about that, like the personal growth, kind of like proving to yourself that you can, and then making things possible for you that were not possible before. And for me personally, like it links, I mean, there's like my own finances, but then there's this work that I do with other women or also sometimes not only with women, sometimes also with men and organizations, right? But a lot of it is with women, is to like actually build more societal change around this as well. So there is a big gender wealth gap. There's also financial inclusion. So like we said, people come from different backgrounds, have different opportunities, and financial skills and financial confidence is really a thing that can level the playing field in many ways. So for me, that's also a very important part of it. I think that's kind of like bringing it to a bit higher level, let's say, of what's the change that I want to actually make happen with this. Yeah, so it's different. For some people, mostly it starts in the beginning about your own growth and showing that it's possible for me, and then later you maybe become a role model for others. You start, inspiring others with the same.
I can see that. Yeah, I was reflecting on my own journey in this domain when you were speaking there, and thinking like, actually, it's changed quite substantially over time. Like, since I started to become a little bit more intentional about finance. You start somewhere and you're like, right, okay, here's what I'm trying to achieve right now. And then you get to that point, and it's like, okay, here's what I want to achieve now. And it does evolve. And I think that clarity personally was something that I really benefited from. It's just knowing what you're trying to achieve and how to get there. Awesome. Well, let's move on to practice number 3, if we may. Over to you.
Yes, let's do it. So I couldn't do this podcast without mentioning, as a Finn, the sauna practice, because it's such an important part of our culture. I don't know if you two love it or hate it or enjoy it at all, but it's something that is kind of, for Finns, almost like a place of spirituality, healing. It's like a place where everything feels, again, like everything is all right. Like nothing could break here. You take away, obviously, your phones, your even your clothes, right? You are just you, just presence. And it can be either by yourself as a kind of almost meditative practice. Like I get really brilliant ideas, like in the sauna, or you're with your loved ones and you're having discussions that you never, or maybe you wouldn't have otherwise, right? Because you're so focused in there. So there's almost like, for me, an element of a sort of rebirth here. And actually in Finland, like in the old days, if you go like 100 years or more back, like babies were born in the sauna in Finland. Oh. Because it was the cleanest place. You had hot water, like it was like the place, the sanctuary of the family in some way, right? So that kind of resonates with me a lot as well. And I mean, it's not only in Finland, there's hammam, there's, in many other cultures, something similar. So if you expand it a bit, like it could be this, like finding that safe place where you're truly present. For me, it happens to be the sauna. And for you, it might be, being in nature or something else. But this, like, the heat, it's so comfortable. It's not a painful heat. It's so comfortable. It purifies, you focus your mind. And I really recommend, if you haven't done it, to combine it then after with a cold water plunge. Because that then like focuses your brain, like, it takes out any distractions and you're like in this superpower mode after that. So my ultimate tip is, like, in the morning, if you can, like, go out somewhere, maybe a run or a walk or something, then a sauna. And after that, the cold plunge. And if you can, still meditate after that. You will feel like you're a new person, like complete rebirth. It's amazing. Yeah, that's my warmest recommendation.
Oh, I'm feeling very, very inspired to give the sauna another try now. It's also, it's a big part of Ukrainian culture as well, where I'm originally from, but and my family do it very regularly. They have like an every Sunday sauna ritual, and I'm always like, leave me out of it. It's too...
Oh, really? You have to do it, Anna.
Yeah, I'm like, it's too hot. But you know what? I actually feel very inspired after listening to you now, Minna. And I'd love to know, like, how regularly do you do it? And do you go in with an intention?
Yeah, I do it quite often, actually, because we have one at home here in Switzerland. So it matters so much to me that we even like had it built. In Switzerland, it's not typically like in Finland, like almost every apartment has their like a little sauna. But in Switzerland, it's not the case. So we got it built into our apartment, so I can do it. I know I'm very lucky that I can just go any day. So definitely a few times a week. And whenever I'm in Finland, I go almost every day, because there it's so omnipresent, especially in the summertime if you're at the cottage. But it's a weekly practice, definitely. And sometimes it's just to relax, and I don't go with a very specific thought. But sometimes you actually go there like to have a moment. Like even with my husband, we love to have like a discussion there. What are we grateful for? Like, what's going well now? Or, what do we want to change? Or some big topics like that is actually brilliant in the sauna, because you're so present.
Oh, that sounds amazing. You've definitely got me inspired.
See, you have to now
Yeah.
try it. Yeah, it's really nice. And make sure the sauna is not too hot, because indeed it should be very comfortable for you. And you can, as my tip, like you can do an iced tea, herbal iced tea, and take that along with you to drink. It's like very nice to have some cold drink with you there at the same time. You know, it's, yeah, put some candles like outside, then it's very nice.
I assume that there's a tolerance that needs to be built here, right? Like I remember when I first did it, 5 minutes felt like 2 hours. But like, how long is a sauna escape for you on average, shall we say?
Yeah, so you know, if you go into the sauna in some countries like Germany, for example, they have the sauna regel, the sauna rules, where it's like 15 minutes in, then you go out, 10 minutes, you breathe in the fresh air, and after that you do this and that. In Finland, not at all. It's about your feeling. So I couldn't tell you how much time is this, because I never look at the clock. It's whenever you feel okay, now it's hot, then I go out. And if you're feeling like it's quite hot, then this cooling down in between really helps. Because if you just do a sauna and then a warm shower afterwards, you might still like kind of have that glowing heat, let's say, after that. But if you can, you know, encourage yourself to a bit colder shower, or even, you know, you can fill a bathtub with cold water and take a cold plunge. I do that at home, actually. So we have a bathtub as well. And then I fill it with cold water. That makes you feel really amazing afterwards. Or you can go, like, if you have if you're outdoors somewhere or balcony, you go outside to cool. So the cooling down properly is also important part, that it feels good. But like, just do it at your own pace, then what's comfortable for you. Never try to force yourself to be too long. If I'm doing a quick one at after a morning run and I need to get to a call, then maybe it's just 20 minutes or something. But in the summertime, we're at the cottage, we're going to take it easy. Like, it can be many hours. You go out to the lake, you go back, you have some beers, you enjoy.
Let's move on to number 4, shall we? If you wouldn't mind sharing with us, Mina.
Yes. So number 4 I chose was to embrace discomfort. So we all have some topics in our lives or some areas of our life which are slightly uncomfortable. And I would like, it's easy to kind of avoid that and just let it slip and don't look into it because everything is going fine, and you can just like ignore that part. But actually, that place where you have the most resistance is probably where you can find the most growth or the most peace of mind or relief as well, once you start working on it. This is some big change has been for me. Like, before, I was just like, everything's going fine. Like, I can just like live my life like this. But if there is something that you're avoiding, like for some people, it might be the finances, but for some, it might be avoiding some difficult conversations in the family, or a pattern that you see repeating again and again. Be like aware of those. Like, I've now almost started to become like, it's my sport that I try to like spot, like, aha, there, I see that discomfort in this area. So that means I actually need to face it and work on it, even though it's a bit painful in the process. Maybe I really think that's very important. And how you can do it also is so nice to get some coaching. I think you both are probably big fans of coaching, I know. And I've really, like, there was a long time I didn't do any coaching for myself. At the moment, I think I have 3 different coaches that I work with on different topics. So it's so important to do that. And sometimes like, now I have my coaching, like, okay, I would actually have a lot of things on my to-do list and I need to show up here and do it, but it pays off every single time. If you have something like this, that's like, I notice every time I have these meetings at work or whatever it is, right? The cost of avoiding it is usually higher than the cost of facing it. And it will like really bring you then also the relief and the growth. In those areas, you can find it most. If you're like really good at spreadsheets, you can improve your spreadsheet skills a little bit more, and that's great. But if you're at the same time very uncomfortable talking about your emotions, and if you start working on that, like even the little steps can really release a lot of energy.
Oh, Big time. No, as a fellow coach, everything you've just said is complete music to my ears. And what I noticed, Minna, is that when you were talking about, and then you spot something new and you're like, aha, there was a real like excitement in your voice, and there was real what also sounded like curiosity and kind of like, hey, bring it on, I am ready for this. And which is such a beautiful energy. And I'm wondering, for somebody who might be curious about what you've just said and is like, okay, maybe that's worth looking into. Probably initially, the energy that they will bring will be very different. It might be one of more of caution, apprehension, fear, whatever it may be. So my question is, what was your path towards getting to this place of genuine excitement when facing something potentially uncomfortable? And are there any tips that you can share with our listeners?
Well, how does it go? The old saying, there are three extremely hard things in life. There's steel, there's diamonds, and knowing yourself. So, I mean, I know, like, this is definitely something that has been a kind of big path to get into it. I think it has been this whole journey I was talking about in the beginning, right? Of like realizing that I am in a way hurting myself by letting things just go on in a way, even though I know that they are not really supporting me. I'm compromising my health, my happiness, and then realizing that, okay, I did kind of the obvious thing, like, quitting my job and moving into entrepreneurship, which was a big step. But if I didn't manage kind of the emotional side, only half the work is done, or even less than that, right? So that's probably like one thing that has kind of changed my mind on that. Like all of this coaching that I've done, like I've always been first like, should I do it? But then when I do it, I really know it brings the results. And that has like, now I consider this as a real investment. Like I invest money in the stock market, but I invest money in myself, like by getting personal support. And I know that if I have that appointment with someone, I am going to show up there. I am going to like get something out of it. Like just as an example of like my last coaching session, like exactly, it was busy in the morning. I was like, I have a million things on my mind. I'm not focused at all. Like, what is this going to be? And then we ended up having such a brilliant session, like around this purpose, exactly the new purpose. And it like really clicked in my mind. So you never know. Like, I think it's always worth it to have a coaching session coming up on your calendar, let's say. And just like, I was like, yeah, I'm going to invest in this. I need it. Otherwise, I really can't grow as a person. And having a really good coach is just worth gold. I've had so amazing people like help me, support me in many ways in this journey. And I hope I'm doing the same for others that I'm coaching on their finances.
For sure. Yeah, no, I thought when you were speaking there, just to follow on from Anna's question and observation about your energy, because I've been having these conversations with a couple of people close to me recently about having the confidence to face the discomfort, as you put it, or getting comfortable with the discomfort. And like for the people who Anna framed the question for, the people at the start of this journey of like, how do I start with this? I think the observation I've seen in those people, and I reflect on for myself, is that when you're trying to face something new that is discomforting, like I see a pattern where they try to start at the end. And like it feels so far away to solving this massive problem, but actually like you just have to start at the start. And so like where I'd put that to Anna's observation of your energy is because what you gain from doing this a few times is confidence in yourself. So then you no longer fear the discomfort because you've proved to yourself that you can break these tasks down and you can accomplish them. And so when you do have that next thing arise, it feels like a game, as you put it, because you know you can do it. So now you're not so scared of it. And so you get excited about fixing something or creating something, and like that gives you energy. And the reason I'm getting energetic about this right now is because one of those people is my son. Like I have this conversation with my son. He's 9, and it's like starting to face things that are a bit harder. And so I'm going to use the word that you use because it was exactly the one I used with him, which is freedom. And so like I'm trying to explain to him at 9 that he thinks not doing something is freedom, but he gets the choice to not do it. And like obviously there's an element of truth in that. And what I've tried to explain to him, which I think will come in time, is there's more freedom in being able to do anything, or knowing that you can choose to do anything and you can overcome it. And you used the word freedom earlier, so I just wanted to like pin it back to that point, because I think there's a real freedom in having the confidence to be comfortable in discomfort, if that makes sense.
That makes a ton of sense. I mean, you should write a book on that, Josh. I think the way you said it was like, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's exactly like that. Freedom is a choice. Happiness is a choice. It's about our management of ourselves in a way. Realizing that you really can. What's possible for you is that you can really change, and change is an active choice. You choose that. You choose the growth rather than staying in the comfortable. But I mean, then you think you're doing this really well, but then you probably still have like some like patterns that you're like still avoiding. And it's just like, yeah, I'm working on myself like so much on X, Y, Z, but there's like that really big thing that I haven't really dared.
Because now I'm so busy working on things, I don't rest. So now I need to work on resting. So it's there is this kind of paradox here as well. But for a rainy day, we'll save that for a rainy day. Well, Mina, I feel quite sad. We have to move on to our final practice now. I wish we could do 10, but for today we'll stick to 5. So let's move on to the final one if we can.
Yeah, let's do it. The last one I would say is about emotions, being in tune with your emotions. And this I'm saying because, I am still, a very spreadsheet structured McKinsey consultant kind of type of person. But I've really realized that the spreadsheets, like they only scratch at the surface, and our emotions are really the thing which is kind of running our lives. Whether we acknowledge it or not, whether we want it or not. So I would kind of encourage to embrace your emotional side. I mean, we're now in the age of AI and all this, but the real human power, like that human element, like even, for example, I was thinking about crying. It's something that has a lot of like healing power. You can embrace it. I'm a person that cries easily in general. And I used to be kind of ashamed of it. And when I was in my, obviously corporate setting or something, like it was definitely something kind of not to do. But now I've really changed how I feel about it. I'm not anymore. And when I'm, for example, in coaching sessions or something, it's very typical for me, like, oh, I'm crying, and getting very emotional, which kind of is maybe in contradiction with my finance structure side, but actually not. It's not, right? So I think emotional fluency is something which is it's actually a skill or a strength, not a weakness. And so I would have that one as a kind of because I know there's people who are like very much in tune with their emotions, but most of us are really not. And to celebrate emotions, to get carried away by those, to get into it, I think that's so important to recognize we are humans. We're not machines who can just do our like self-improvement practices and take care of everything, but that we are very emotional beings, right? So yeah. I think that would be my number 5.
And so, Minna, you mentioned emotional literacy, I believe you called it, or emotional proficiency. And I'm wondering, if you had to give a definition of it, what would you say?
Wow, I don't know if I have a very good definition of it, but I think it's about being open with your emotions, not being ashamed of them, first of all. So showing them, being aware of them, maybe recognizing them, respecting them, all of that, right? And yeah, there are so many areas of life where emotions are not as accepted, right? I come from the kind of consulting finance industry side, and it's really like emotional void, right? You're controlling your emotions, and even like investing, right? Which is a topic that I teach about. Like it's a topic where basically emotions are not so great to have, because you have like a rational strategy and that's what you should be kind of following. If you consider that and ignore the emotional part, you're leaving our human potential unexplored. So there's so much more in there. Like, think about even in sports or any high performance thing, like, opera singer on the stage, whatever, like the emotion is what carries really what it means, what it is, that it impacts us. And I'm maybe not like even, embracing it enough in my own life. I think I should even embrace it more, but it's something that I recognize at least that it's it's quite important.
That's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And, one thing that I would perhaps add to your list of what does emotional literacy mean is, yes, like allowing the feelings, feeling them, embracing them, and at the same time, not allowing yourself to be ruled by them. And there is this super powerful imagery, which is if you put your hand on like a hot stove, right? What you will feel is you will feel pain. And that's a good thing that you feel the pain, because it's a signal, hey, take your hand away. Like this is not serving you, right? However, if we then don't respond to the emotions and use them as signals that something is good or not so good, but we keep the hand there, which is a conscious choice, then we're perpetuating that pain for no reason, really, right? And letting that pain rule us to a certain extent. I don't know if that makes sense, but when I heard that, I was like, wow, this is such a strong visual.
It is exactly. And yeah, I love that because, emotions like fear, for example, we used to think, oh, it's a negative, kind of a negative emotion to have, but it really is there for a reason. Like it has a message to tell you, and we shouldn't kind of like shut down, like deny that it's there. Listen to it perhaps, but it doesn't have to stop us from progressing, even if it's there. Yeah, that was important for me because there were a lot of fears, insecurities, kind of like, okay, I look at them. And I love this like coaching exercise, which is something like embrace your fears, right? Where you really like look at them, you thank them for being there. Like, this has been what you've been doing, right? You've been trying to keep me safe by doing this, by preventing me from doing something or so on. Now I get it. But, actually, I'm okay. I'm safe. I can do this, like you're still there. You can help me in other ways and I'm going to still do it. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but like, I like this kind of actually getting to know your fears and kind of respecting them and then maybe gently letting go of some of them.
100%. And it's so fascinating how ultimately what they want, our fears, most of the time is just to be heard, right? And so by speaking to them, by embracing them, by acknowledging them, that's already in many cases half the work done.
Absolutely. It's true. It's really like that. You kind of have to give them the attention that they're craving for.
Yeah.
And then they might be actually quite happy and not not show up as much.
I think it's a really important vantage point because I think you're right in the sense that the term that I hear all of the time in books, on podcasts, in work environments is emotional regulation. And I think what you're actually saying is like the inverse of that. And like there's a place for both, right? There's a time to recognize your emotion and not feed into it and to be able to self-regulate. And that's an important skill in its own right. And I just feel like that gets a lot of the attention. And actually, I think it's a really important message. What you're saying is there's also a time and place to just let the emotion in and be with it and use it and allow it. And there's, great occasions where that would be equally as important and a better choice. And that half perhaps doesn't get spoken about as often or as positively as emotional regulation.
That's true. And I think there is a place for that kind of in our work environments because it is a place in it's a lot there and channeled in arts, in maybe sports, music and things like that. But in our work environments, it's often the no environment for that. And in fact, actually really good corporate leaders as well, they do actually use emotions quite a bit, like to motivate, to raise team spirit, to rise up against some challenge, right? To change things around. So there definitely is an emotional or a place for emotions in the workplace as well. And I think sometimes, well, actually, it's funny. At McKinsey, they used to say like, when you're kind of like rising up in the organization, you're in the consultant path, like, it's all about, structure, your analytical skills, problem solving, like very much the content part. But when you come to the top, the emotional skills are actually what matters way more, because then you come kind of to really to the leadership of like how people change, how you change an organization. Like strategy has a lot of facts and statistics, but we all know that it actually has a lot of like intuition, emotion, and like, rallying organization around some purpose. So that was interesting, right? Because sometimes like, oh, I'm like here with all my emotions and everyone else is like super focused, like, but actually your emotions might be like the winning factor in the end in some way. It stayed with me, that picture as well.
It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And I was thinking about it from a parenting perspective as well. It's in the sense that like, you're not trying to raise a robot, right? So like you're trying to teach somebody when there's the right time to regulate your emotions, but then you're also trying to tell them when it's okay to be emotional, and like that nuance is really difficult to teach in somebody. And so, yeah, I think it's a really important vantage point that you've brought to the table. So I appreciate you doing that. I feel quite sad to wrap up, but I feel like we need to. So this has been awesome. So but before we bring this to a close, perhaps you could just give a really high level summary of the 5 practices that you've brought to the table today for our listeners.
Well, I think for me, they're all basically about really taking good care of yourself, taking yourself in a way seriously, investing in yourself. And through that, you can be a more fuller version of yourself in some way. So yeah, there was a lot of that, like embracing discomfort, living with your purpose. But then on the other hand, also, the sauna, right? Taking good care of yourself. I don't know if there's really a red thread there. Those are all like 5 things that I really love. And I think they help me at least to live my life in the way that I want to. And I would love to hear if they resonate with anyone else as well.
Absolutely. Well, they definitely resonated with me. I'm sure they resonated with our listeners. And if they did, by the way, make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that you can catch up with the next episode that comes out, as you never know, you might get some even more helpful tips for your journey as well. But for now, Mina, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time and your openness today. It's been great. And until next time, thank you.
Thank you so much, Minna.
Thank you so much to both of you for inviting me. It has been an amazing discussion. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for giving the space. I think what you're doing is really amazing. So keep on doing this. I'm sure you're inspiring really a lot of people. So yeah, it was really a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks so much.